Hello, everyone. I'd like to thank BCIT and their executive team, the faculties of computing and transportation, and of course the graduates and their families for the opportunity to be here today and speak with you. I come from a BCIT family. My dad graduated in metallurgy, my uncle in mechanics, my cousin in machining, my stepdad in civil engineering, and last but not least, my wife got her nursing degree here. Both my parents also utilized BCIT later in their careers. My mom changed her career, and my dad taught part-time computer studies for many years as well. Both my kids are here today. Maybe they'll choose BCIT as well. So clearly, BCIT has been important in our family's life, and it really is an honor to speak with you today. So what about me? I started at BCIT in September 2000. So right out of high school and right smack into what was becoming the dot-com bust. And so I had been lucky enough to study programming in high school, and I got a scholarship to BCIT, but this was a big transition. All my buddies were off at university, just easing into first semester, and then as many people and everyone knows here, there was no easing into BCIT. And it certainly took some getting used to. So the tech industry right now, at this moment, really feels like a time of uncertainty and change. And I was trying to think of some way of tying when I graduated back to today. And when I sat here, I'm fairly certain in the same church where you are right now. I thought maybe I could tell stories of like cool tech that I worked on, which was a lot, and different projects that we worked on over the last 24 years, or who I met, or what I do differently. I also thought about talking about AI a lot, and then I decided not to do that. So what I decided to do was do these two things. So I'm going to introduce everyone to three things that were said to me over my career that stick with me every day, and I think about them all the time, and only say the words AI 5 times. And I've already done it twice, so you got that to look forward to. So here we go. So the first story is about assumptions. So I had just started at Microsoft for the second time, and I was tasked with making sure this massive office got online in time, basically. And on the second day, I got invited to do a tour with the head of real estate at Microsoft, and he walked me around this office. And it was by far the biggest office I'd ever been a part of, and I was overwhelmed. And you know, it's funny, that's usually a sign you took the right job, when you feel a bit overwhelmed, right? And we walked around, and I saw something like some cables going to a desk, and I said, oh, that's interesting, but I assume you guys thought of that. And he stopped dead at his tracks as he was walking around, and he turned around, and he said this with a lot more expletives, let's say, and he said, Trevor, never assume anything around here. And so why do I always think about this? So you can take that comment many ways, but the way I do is to be humble and be open. So I do my best not to assume I know what's right all the time. I also try not to assume the other person in any conversation or business interaction knows what's right either. Even better, I try not to assume that the person I'm communicating with can even get their ideas out. So, you know, I try to support them with that as well. And this helps me embrace people's opinions and takes and ideas and appreciates diversity of thinking. So why is that important? Not assuming means that you're curious and you'll remain curious. And you wouldn't be here at this point if you weren't. And you're gonna have to be successful in your career. And then most of all, don't assume the AI is right. So that's 3 times. Second story is about an email. So to be perfectly accurate, this was a company email, and an all company email. And I'm sure you might be thinking it was like a congratulations or someone was leaving a long email, but it was a simple email and went to everybody's inbox and it said free stuff. That was the subject line. So you went to the email and I was like, ooh, what do we got here, right? And it opened it up and it said, I have a free punch in the face for whoever ate my sandwich. And so why do I think about this? I don't think about it because I thought anyone was going to get punched in the face at work, right? I remember people at my desks around me laughing, everyone was having a good chuckle. But I remember this because it's important to take the right things seriously. And so people laugh because the person that said it made hard work easy. He was a mentor, he built teams, he built some of the most successful video games on the planet, and without skipping a beat. And this isn't to say that people feared him or anything like that. It's just that they could tell him if they ate his delicious Subway and he wouldn't really care, right, at the end of the day. And so why is this important? Your career isn't going to be linear, right? Some weeks, months, years are good, some are great, and some could be miserable. I've been laid off twice by the same person, actually. That person is now my business partner at Industrio. And so people are going to steal your sandwich along the way, and most importantly, AI is not going to help you with that either, right? And that's going to be on you. So the last story is about stealing pencils, and I thought about this morning. There's a stealing vibe to these stories. I'm not sure why, but we're going to get there. So at one company, I worked really closely with the CEO on the company's tech direction. So we'd meet all the time, and I remember one meeting where he got distracted and kind of quiet, and so I said, like, what's going on? You okay? And he said, I think it's finally happened, Trev. We've reached the pencil stealing stage. I kind of stood there for a second. Okay, Doug, sure, yeah, but, and then I started thinking, like, did I steal a pencil? Like, what's going on here, right? And I said, what do you mean? And he said, when you're walking down the hall at work, and you see someone coming at you, and you can't quite remember their name. Yeah, that's it. That's the pencil stealing stage. We're there now. So why do I think about this? I remember nodding at the time, and over the years, though, it became clearer to me. And at that stage of the company, like, intuitively, you knew what he meant, basically, at that time. And so I was in IT, I kind of knew everybody, but as the CEO, he didn't. And so he was reacting to his company changing over time and growing. So I've been able to experience companies grow from 20 to 200 or 300 to 2,000. And the companies, like ourselves, like our careers, they grow, they shrink, they adapt, they change. And why is this important? Technology is going to change. At BCIT in 2001, I sat in a lab in Burnaby when the original Segway was announced. So I don't know if people know what that was. But someone yelled out, that's it, walking is over, right? And just to think back, like, how silly that was. But so try to keep in mind that the world we live in now and the tech cycle we're in right now is going to change again. And BCIT has given you the tools to navigate this. Also, be aware that when these new tools come out, and they provide opportunities. So embrace them, adapt with them, put them in your tool belt, and obviously that's really relevant right now as well. So to wrap the last story up, I was on a trip with the CEO a couple years later, and I asked him, like, that uncomfortable feeling you mentioned, I get it, but what does that have to do with stealing pencils? And so he kind of leaned over and he said, see, Trevor, when you get that big, people can just steal your pencils, and we'd never know. And that was the accountant side of him kind of talking. So hopefully what you've picked up with these stories is that I remember most who I worked with at different times and what I learned with them. I'd hope all the graduates, you're sitting there thinking about people you've worked with over the last 2-4 years. They might be sitting next to you, or you've worked in labs together. AI is not going to do that. It can't do that. And I strongly believe that BCIT has given you the ability to have long careers figuring out the next technology wave that comes and helping people make use of that. So try not to assume and remain curious. Try to take the right things seriously. And even though it's hard, step into that change and that uncertain feeling. And finally, don't steal any pencils or sandwiches along the way. Congratulations to all the grads, their families, everybody here. Good luck in your future.